Captain Jake Morrison stood in the main hall of Nexus Prime Station, watching alien beings from dozens of worlds walk past him. Some looked like giant insects with 4 arms. Others had blue skin and eyes that glowed in the dark. A few moved, on tentacles instead of legs. After 3 years working here, Jake still felt like the new kid at school. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It floated in space between star systems, serving as the main meeting place for the Galactic Federation. Humans had only joined 50 years ago, making them the newest members. Most days, Jake felt proud to represent Earth here. Today was different. "Captain Morrison, please report to Admiral Hayes immediately." The voice came through his communication device. Jake recognized the serious tone. Something was wrong. Jake walked quickly through the metal halls. Other species moved out of his way, but not out of respect. He could see it in their eyes. They thought humans were weak, too soft, too primitive. The other aliens had energy weapons that could cut through steel like butter. They had shields that could stop any attack. Humans still used bullets and missiles, which made the aliens laugh. Admiral Lisa Hayes waited for him in the human section of the station. Her office was small compared to the spaces given to other species. The walls were covered with pictures of Earth and the human colonies. Lisa looked tired. Dark circles sat under her eyes, and her usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. "Jake, we have a problem," Lisa said as soon as he entered. "A big one." She activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Images of alien warships appeared. Hundreds of them. The ships were sleek and white, with glowing energy weapons mounted on their sides. Jake knew those ships. Everyone in the galaxy knew them. "The Zelkin Empire," Jake said quietly. "They sent an ultimatum to the Federation Council this morning," Lisa continued. "They want humanity removed from the Federation. All of our colonies must be abandoned. We have to leave Federation space completely." Jake felt his stomach drop. What reason did they give? "They say we're too weak to be members. That we bring shame to the Federation by using primitive weapons and old technology." Lisa's voice was angry now. "They called us soft flesh bags who don't deserve to live among real civilizations." The holographic display changed to show the Zelkin War Commander. Thaklos was tall and covered in gray skin that looked like armor. His 4 eyes glowed red, and sharp teeth filled his mouth. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. "The humans are a mistake," Thaklos said in the recording. "They cannot even shield their vessels properly. They fire metal bullets like children playing with toys. The Federation grows weak by accepting such feeble creatures." Jake watched the alien commander with growing anger. He had fought pirates in the outer colonies. He had seen human courage under fire. They were not weak. They were different. What did the Federation Council say? Jake asked. Lisa's expression grew darker. "That's the worst part. Most of them agree with the Zelkins. They're calling for a vote." The door chimed, and Commander Alex Rivera entered the room. Alex was humanity's best military mind, a man who could plan battles like others played chess. His face was grim. "I just came from the council chambers," Alex said. "The vote is in 3 hours. It's going to be close, but I think we're going to lose." "How close?" Lisa asked. "Maybe 1 or 2 votes either way. The Zelkins have been threatening other species. Join them against humanity, or face their anger later." Jake shook his head. "So they're bullying the entire Federation into kicking us out." "It gets worse," Alex continued. "I overheard some Zelkin officers talking in the corridor. They don't just want us gone. They want to make an example of us." "What kind of example?" Lisa asked, though her voice suggested she already knew. "They plan to attack our colonies, starting with New Texas. They want to show the galaxy what happens when Primitive species tried to stand with advanced civilizations. Jake felt cold. New Texas was home to 2 million people. Farmers, teachers, children, families trying to build new lives on a distant world. The thought of Zelkin warships turning that planet into burning rock made his hands shake with anger. "We have to warn them," Jake said. "Already done," Alex replied. "But what can they do? New Texas has maybe 20 defense ships. The Zelkins are bringing 300. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, alien ships moved through space. Like swimming fish. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything humans had built. "There's something else," she said without turning around. "The Council is giving us 72 hours to make our decision. Accept removal from the Federation, or face corrective action." "Corrective action," Alex repeated. "That's a nice way of saying they'll help the Zelkins destroy us." Jake looked at the holographic display again. The Zelkin ships seemed to mock him with their smooth curves and glowing weapons. For 50 years, humanity had tried to fit in with galactic civilization. They had followed the rules, used approved weapons, fought according to Federation guidelines. And this was their reward. "Admiral," Jake said slowly, "what if we don't follow their rules anymore?" Lisa turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" "The Zelkins think we're weak because we use bullets and missiles. Because we don't have energy shields or plasma cannons. They've never fought humans who were really trying to win." Alex raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about total war. No rules, no limits." "I'm talking about showing them what human warfare really looks like when we stop playing nice," Jake said. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she walked to her desk and activated the secure communication system. "Earth Command, this is Admiral Hayes. Priority Alpha message for Fleet Command." The screen flickered, and the face of Earth's top military leader appeared. Fleet Admiral Ryan Clark was an old soldier with scars on his face and steel in his eyes. "Lisa, I've been waiting for your call," Ryan said. "I assume you have news about the Federation vote." "Yes, sir. It's not good. The Zelkins want us removed, and they have the votes to make it happen. Worse, they plan to attack our colonies as an example to others." Ryan's expression didn't change, but Jake could see anger burning in the old Admiral's eyes. "I see. And what is your recommendation, Admiral?" Lisa looked at Jake and Alex, then back at the screen. "Sir, I recommend we stop fighting like we're in the Federation and start fighting like we're human." Ryan smiled, and it was not a pleasant sight. "Understood, Admiral. Message received and logged. You have 72 hours, you said?" "Yes, sir." "Then they're about to learn why Earth never stopped making soldiers." The transmission ended, leaving the 3 humans alone in the small office. Outside the window, alien ships continued their peaceful dance through space. None of them knew that the galaxy was about to change forever. Jake felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Not fear or anger, but anticipation. The other species thought humans were weak because they had never seen humans at war. Real war. The kind of war that humanity had been perfecting for thousands of years. They wanted to see our teeth, Jake said quietly, watching a Zelkin patrol ship glide past the window. "I think it's time we stopped smiling." Earth's military command center buzzed with activity like a kicked anthill. Officers ran between computer stations, while screens showed ship movements across human space. Fleet Admiral Ryan Clark stood in the center of it all, watching the organized chaos with calm eyes. He had been preparing for this day longer than anyone knew. President Maria Santos entered the war room with her security team. She was a small woman, but when she spoke, everyone listened. The weight of humanity's future rested on her shoulders, and she carried it without complaint. "Admiral Clark, give me the situation," she said. Ryan activated the main display. Red dots showed Zulkan fleet positions, while blue dots marked human colonies and ships. The numbers looked bad. Very bad. Madam President, the Zulkans have mobilized their third battle fleet, 300 ships, including 12 heavy cruisers. They're moving toward New Texas as we speak. How long do we have? 48 hours until they reach our colony. Maybe less if they push their engines hard. Maria studied the display. Each red dot represented a ship that could destroy a human city with one shot. The blue dots seemed tiny in comparison. What are our options, Admiral? We have two choices. Ryan said, we can evacuate our colonies and hope the Zulkans let us leave peacefully. Or we can fight. Fighting means war with the most powerful military in the galaxy. Yes, ma'am. But running means abandoning 2 million people on New Texas. And it won't end there. The Zulkans won't be satisfied with just removing us from the Federation. They want to make sure no other species ever challenges their authority again. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she looked around the room at the officers and technicians working at their stations. These were good people. People who had families and dreams and hopes for the future. Admiral, if we fight, what are our chances? Ryan smiled. And there was something dangerous in that smile. If we fight like Federation members, following their rules and using their approved tactics, 0 chance we'd be slaughtered. And if we don't follow their rules, then we might just surprise them. Colonel Danny Wright entered the war room at that moment. Danny commanded the elite Ranger Corps, humanity's most dangerous soldiers. He was covered in scars from a dozen battles, and his eyes held the calm confidence of a man who had faced death and walked away. Madam President, Danny said with a salute, my Rangers are ready for deployment. Just give us a target. Colonel Wright. Maria said, I need to know honestly, can we win this? Danny looked at the display showing Zulkan fleet positions. Most people would see an impossible situation. Danny saw opportunities. Ma'am, the Zulkans have been fighting the same way for centuries. Energy weapons, shields, long-range battles. Between fleets. They've forgotten that war is more than just shooting at each other from a distance. Explain. They think our weapons are primitive because we use kinetic rounds and nuclear warheads. They think we're weak because we don't have energy shields. But they've never faced an enemy that uses our tactics. Chief Engineer Carol Baker joined the group around the display. Carol was responsible for maintaining humanity's fleet, and she knew every bolt and circuit in their ships. Madam President, Carol said, I've been running simulations on Zulkan shield technology. Their deflectors can stop any energy weapon in the galaxy. But they were never designed to handle high-velocity physical projectiles. You mean our railguns could penetrate their shields? Not just penetrate, punch right through like they weren't there. The Zulkans have been fighting energy-based warfare for so long, they forgot about good old-fashioned kinetic weapons. Dr. Kevin Phillips, head of military intelligence, stepped forward. Kevin was a quiet man who noticed things others missed. He had been studying alien military tactics for years. There's something else, Kevin said. The Zulkans broadcast their battle plans openly. They think it shows honor and strength. I've been monitoring their communications. What did you learn? Ryan asked. They're not planning a battle. They're planning an execution. They expect our ships to line up and fight according to Federation rules. When we do, they'll destroy us quickly and efficiently. But we're not going to follow Federation rules, Maria said. No, ma'am. We're going to fight like humans. Dr. Elena. Martinez had been quiet during the discussion, but now she spoke up. Elena studied alien biology and behavior, and she understood the Zulkan mind better than most humans. The Zulkans have a weakness, she said. They're arrogant. They've been the strongest military power for so long that they can't imagine losing. They'll expect us to be afraid, to run or surrender when we see their fleet. Instead, Maria asked, instead, we attack first. The room fell silent. Attacking a superior enemy fleet was either brilliant or suicidal. Maybe both. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster had been listening from her station. Amy commanded humanity's stealth reconnaissance ships, vessels designed to sneak through enemy space without being detected. Madam President, Amy said, I can have 3 scout ships in Zelkin space within 12 hours. We can gather intelligence on their fleet composition and movement patterns. How will you avoid detection? The Zelkins use sensors designed to detect energy signatures and heat emissions. Our stealth ships run on minimal power with advanced heat dampening. They'll be looking for ships like theirs, not ships like ours. Ryan nodded approvingly. Good. But intelligence gathering is only the first step. We need to prepare our fleet for a type of battle the galaxy has never seen. Karal activated a new display showing human ship designs. Unlike the smooth, elegant alien vessels, human ships looked like metal boxes covered in armor and weapons. I've been working on modifications, Carol said. We can retrofit our ships with additional kinetic weapons and nuclear torpedo launchers. The Zelkins won't expect massive missile salvos, because energy weapons don't work that way. How long? For the modifications? Ryan asked. If we work around the clock, we can have the fleet ready in 36 hours. Do it. Danny pulled up tactical displays of New Texas and the surrounding space. I want to position Ranger boarding teams on asteroids near the colony. When the Zelkin fleet arrives, they'll be expecting orbital bombardment followed by ground invasion. They won't be ready for zero-gravity assault teams. Boarding teams? Maria asked. Ma'am, the Zelkins have never faced human marines in close combat. Their energy weapons are designed for ship-to-ship fighting. In narrow corridors with limited room to maneuver, our kinetic weapons and explosives will be devastating. Kevin activated his intelligence displays. I've identified the Zelkin command structure. War Commander Thaklos leads from the front in a heavy cruiser. If we can capture or destroy their command ship, the rest of their fleet will lose coordination. How do we get close enough to a heavily shielded command ship? Maria asked. Ryan's dangerous smile returned. We use their arrogance against them. They'll expect us to retreat when we see their fleet. Instead, we charge straight at them. The plan was insane. Attack a superior enemy fleet with inferior numbers and older technology. But as the human officers discussed tactics and preparations, something became clear. The Zelkins had been fighting the same type of war for centuries. They had forgotten that there were other ways to fight. Amy left immediately to prepare her reconnaissance mission. Carol began organizing engineering teams to retrofit the fleet. Danny started moving ranger units to staging areas. Kevin continued, monitoring Zelkin communications for any changes in their plans. President Santos stood in the center of the war room, watching her people prepare for the most important battle in human history. The stakes couldn't be higher. Lose, and humanity would be destroyed as an example to others. Win, and they would earn respect throughout the galaxy. Admiral Clark, she said finally, you have full authorization to conduct military operations as you see fit. Show them what humans can do when we stop playing by their rules. Ryan saluted. Thank you, Madam President. The Zelkins wanted to see what human warfare looks like. They're about to get a very educational experience. As the President left the war room, Ryan turned back to the tactical displays. 48 hours until the Zelkin fleet reached New Texas. 48 hours to prepare humanity's response. It would be close, but humans had always done their best work under pressure. The Zelkins thought they were coming to destroy a weak, primitive species. Instead, They were about to discover why humanity had survived and thrived on a planet where everything tried to kill them. They were about to learn that the most dangerous predator in the galaxy was the one they had underestimated. Captain, Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system from Nexus Prime Station. Earth Command, the Zelkin fleet is moving faster than expected. They'll reach New Texas in 40 hours. Ryan nodded grimly. Understood, Captain. Tell our people at New Texas to hold their positions. Help is coming. He looked around the war room one more time. In less than 2 days, the galaxy would learn what happened when you picked a fight with humanity. The Zelkins had called them Feeble. Soon, they would understand their mistake. The space around New Texas looked peaceful in the early morning light. The colony world spun slowly beneath a blanket of white clouds, its green continents visible through breaks in the weather. 2 million people lived down there, farming and building and raising families. Most of them had no idea that death was coming from the stars. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.E.S. Defiance, watching sensor displays that told a different story. 300 Zelkin warships approached in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming white against the black of space. War Commander Thaklos had arrived with enough firepower to turn the planet below into molten rock. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV. Reported Lieutenant Sarah Blake from the sensor station. Zelkin heavy cruiser leading the fleet. Jake nodded. The Zelkin command ship was exactly where intelligence had predicted it would be. Dr. Phillips had been right about their predictable tactics. Signal from the Zelkin fleet, announced Communications Officer Pete Wilson. They're demanding to speak with our commander. Put them through. The main screen flickered, and War Commander Thaklos appeared. The alien's 4 red eyes glowed with confidence, and his sharp teeth showed in what might have been a smile. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of the Zelkin flagship, all smooth surfaces and glowing controls. Human vessel, Thaklos said in his grinding voice. You are outnumbered 15-1. Surrender immediately, and we will grant you a quick death. Jake looked around his own bridge. Unlike the alien ship, the U.E.S. Defiance was built for war. Metal walls, exposed pipes, and weapon systems that looked like they belonged in a factory. His crew of 22 humans watched him quietly, waiting for orders. Negative, Jake replied. We decline your generous offer. Thaklos tilted his head, clearly confused. You cannot hope to win. Your ships are primitive. Your weapons are obsolete. Why do you choose to die? Maybe because you never asked nicely, Jake said. You wanted to see what human warfare looks like. Class is now in session. He cut the communication and turned to his crew. All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Show them what we learned in the last war. Around the human formation, 24 ships began moving, in patterns that would have seemed random to most observers. But Jake knew better. This was controlled chaos, a dancing swarm of vessels that made targeting difficult for enemy computers. Lieutenant Commander Ben Taylor's Corvette Swift Strike led the first attack. Ben was young, maybe 25, but he flew like he was born. In space, his ship darted between asteroids, while Zelkin plasma bolts tried to track him. Swift Strike, you're clear for missile launch, Jake announced. Copy that, Defiance. Fox 3, Fox 3. Ben's ship spat out 6 nuclear-tipped missiles. The Zelkins had time to see them coming, but their energy weapons couldn't intercept fast-moving physical projectiles. The missiles slammed into a Zelkin destroyer, and nuclear fire bloomed against its hull. Direct hit, Ben reported. Their shields didn't even slow us down. The Zelkin formation wavered as 3 ships broke apart in the nuclear explosions. On his command ship, Thaklos was probably trying to understand how primitive missiles had penetrated advanced deflector shields. All ships, missile barrage. Jake ordered. 24 human ships launched every missile they carried. Over 200 nuclear warheads streaked toward the Zelkan fleet. The aliens tried to shoot them down with energy weapons, but they had never trained for anti-missile defense. Most of the warheads found their targets. Explosions rippled through. The enemy formation. Zelkan ships that had seemed invincible minutes before now tumbled through space, their hulls cracked and systems failing. The survivors began returning fire, but their plasma bolts struck empty space where human ships had been moments before. Boarding teams, you are clear for approach, Jake announced. Colonel Danny Wright and his Rangers had been waiting for this moment. Their assault craft launched from hidden positions on nearby asteroids, racing toward damaged Zelkan vessels. The boarding pods looked like armored bullets, designed to punch through enemy hulls and deliver troops directly into hostile ships. Breaching now, Danny reported as his pod slammed into a Zelkan cruiser, beginning close assault. The Zelkans had never faced boarding actions. Their entire military doctrine was based on long-range energy weapon duels between fleets. The idea of enemy soldiers fighting inside their ships was completely foreign to them. Danny and his Rangers moved through the alien corridors with brutal efficiency. Their kinetic weapons and explosive charges devastated the ship's interior, while confused Zelkan crew members tried to understand what was happening. Zelkan bridge secured, Danny reported 10 minutes later. Ship is ours. Similar reports came from other boarding teams. Human Marines were seizing control of enemy vessels from the inside, while the main battle continued in space. But the real surprise was yet to come. Admiral Clark, this is Defiance Actual, Jake said into his communicator. Zelkan fleet is engaged, beginning Phase 2. Copy that, Jake. Orbital platforms are armed and ready. High above the battle, humanity's secret weapons came online. The orbital kinetic bombardment platforms had been hidden in the asteroid field for months, disguised as mining equipment. Now they revealed their true purpose. Chief Engineer Carol Baker had designed them herself. Massive railguns capable of accelerating tungsten rods to significant fractions of light speed. The projectiles were simple metal bars, but when fired at such velocities, they became devastating weapons. Firing solution locked, reported the platform commander. Target is the Zelkan flagship. You are cleared to fire. The railgun discharged with a flash of blue light. The tungsten rod streaked across space faster than any energy weapon, too fast for sensors to track properly. It struck Thaklos' command. Ship dead center, punching through the hull like it was made of paper. The Zelkan flagship broke in half. Atmosphere and debris spilled into space as the massive ship died. Thaklos himself was thrown against a bulkhead as his bridge collapsed. Around him, multiple hits on enemy formation, the platform reported. Continuing bombardment. More tungsten rods lanced through space. Each impact destroyed or crippled a Zelkan vessel. The aliens had no defense against weapons that ignored their shields and moved too fast to dodge. The battle turned into a massacre. Zelkan ships that had seemed unstoppable were being torn apart by human weapons they didn't understand. Their energy-based technology was useless against kinetic bombardment and nuclear missiles. Zelkan fleet is breaking formation, reported Lieutenant Blake. Multiple ships are retreating. Jake watched the tactical display as red dots scattered in all directions. The proud Zelkan formation had collapsed into panicked flight. Ships that survived the human assault were running for their lives. War. Commander Thaklos' voice crackled through communications from his dying flagship. All ships withdraw immediately. The humans fight like demons. They have weapons that ignore shields and tactics we have never encountered. But for many Zelkan ships, the warning came too late. Human boarding teams controlled dozens of vessels. Kinetic bombardment platforms continued firing at retreating targets. Nuclear missiles chased fleeing ships through space in less than 2 hours. The largest Zelkin fleet ever sent against humanity had been destroyed. Of 300 ships that had arrived to crush the human colony, fewer than 50 escaped. The rest were destroyed, captured, or drifting dead in space. Jake stood on his bridge, watching the aftermath. Burning alien ships tumbled past his windows, while rescue teams searched for survivors. The space around New Texas was littered with debris from the battle. "Defiance, this is New Texas Control," came a voice from the planet below. "We're reading massive energy signatures in orbit. What's your status?" "New Texas Control, this is Captain Morrison. The Zelkin fleet has been repelled. The colony is safe." Cheers erupted from the communications channel. Down on the planet, 2 million people were celebrating their survival. They had been hours away from death, and humanity had saved them. "Sir," Lieutenant Blake said quietly, "we're receiving transmissions from all over the galaxy." The battle was broadcast on Federation channels. Jake nodded. The galaxy had watched humans destroy the most powerful fleet in Zelkin history, using tactics no one understood. Energy weapons and shields, the foundation of galactic warfare for centuries, had proved useless against human ingenuity. Colonel Wright's voice came through communications from the captured Zelkin cruiser. "Jake, you need to hear this. We took some prisoners. What do they have to say? They're terrified. They keep asking how we made our weapons pass through their shields. They think we're using some kind of advanced technology they've never seen before." Jake almost laughed. Advanced technology. The Zelkins couldn't understand that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. While they had focused on perfecting energy weapons, humans had never stopped developing kinetic systems and nuclear technology. "Danny, secure the prisoners and prepare salvage teams. We'll want to study their ships." "Copy that." "Sir, there's something else. The Zelkin commander wants to speak with you." Jake considered it. Thaklos had come here to destroy a human colony and make an example of humanity's weakness. Instead, he had learned what happened when you underestimated the species from Earth. Put him through. The screen showed Thaklos strapped to a medical. The news of the Battle of New Texas spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien beings watched footage of human ships destroying the mighty Zelkin fleet. The images seemed impossible. Nuclear fire blooming against white. HULLs, kinetic rounds punching through shields that had never been penetrated before. Human marines fighting room to room through alien ships. Emperor Vexcan of the Zelkin Empire watched the battle recordings from his throne room on the Capitol. World. His 4 arms gripped the armrests as he saw his finest fleet torn apart by primitive humans. The walls around him displayed the glory of Zelkin conquests spanning centuries. Now that glory was stained with the shame of defeat. How many ships survived? He asked his military advisor. 47 out of 300, Your Majesty. War Commander Thaklos is missing and presumed captured. Vexcan's eyes blazed with anger. For 2,000 years, the Zelkin Empire had been the strongest military power in the galaxy. They had never lost a major battle, never retreated from inferior forces, never been humiliated by primitive species who should have knelt before Zelkin might. "Mobilize the Grand Fleet," he commanded. "Every ship we have. I want 5,000. Vessels ready for war within 1 week. Your Majesty, that would leave our own worlds defenseless. I don't care. The humans have made us look weak. If we don't crush them completely, other species will think they can challenge us too." On Earth, humanity was not sitting idle. Fleet Admiral Ryan Clark had used the victory at New Texas to buy time, but he knew the Zelkins would return with everything they had. The next battle would determine whether humanity survived or was wiped from the galaxy. General, Patricia Holmes entered the war room with a smile on her face. Patricia commanded humanity's industrial war machine, and she had been busy since the new Texas victory. "Admiral, I have good news and better news," she said. "Let's hear it." "The good news is that our automated mining ships have converted over 2,000 asteroids into kinetic weapon platforms. We now have enough ammunition to fight a fleet 10 times larger than what we faced at New Texas. And the better news? We've been infiltrating Zelkin space for 3 weeks. Special Forces teams are already in position throughout their territory." Ryan studied the tactical display showing human positions. Red dots marked Zelkin worlds and fleets, while blue dots showed human assets. To most observers, the humans looked impossibly outnumbered. But Ryan saw something different. He saw opportunity. Captain Sandra Cole stood at the intelligence station, reviewing reports from deep space reconnaissance. Sandra commanded humanity's stealth operations, and her ships had been busy gathering information about Zelkin military movements. "Admiral, the Zelkin Grand Fleet is assembling at their main naval base," she reported. 5,000 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. A plan to advance in one massive formation and crush us through sheer numbers. "Classic Zelkin thinking," Ryan said. "They still don't understand how we fight." Commander Chris Johnson looked up from the cyber warfare station. Chris was young for his rank, but he understood computer systems better than anyone in the fleet. His fingers moved constantly across holographic keyboards as he worked. "Sir, I've identified weaknesses in Zelkin communication networks," Chris said. "Their entire fleet uses centralized command protocols. If we can disrupt their communications, their coordination will collapse." "How do we do that?" "Virus attacks on their command ships. The Zelkins have never faced cyber warfare because energy-based systems don't use the same network protocols we do. They have no defense against our computer viruses." Dr. Elena Martinez had been studying captured Zelkin prisoners since the New Texas battle. Her psychological profile of the enemy was crucial to planning humanity's response. "Admiral," she said, "I've learned something important about Zelkin military culture. They've been conditioned for thousands of years to fight honorable duels between fleets. The concept of attacking supply lines, targeting civilian infrastructure, or using guerrilla tactics is completely foreign to them." "You're saying they don't understand total war?" "Exactly. They think war is a sporting competition with rules and limits. They've never fought an enemy that was trying to completely destroy their ability to make war." Ryan nodded grimly. The Zelkins were about to learn the difference between combat and war. Humans had been perfecting the art of total warfare for millennia. They understood that winning meant breaking the enemy's will to fight, not just destroying their armies. "Begin Operation Night Hunter." Ryan commanded Captain Sandra Cole activated her stealth fleet. Human ships that had been hiding in Zelkin space for weeks began attacking supply convoys and isolated outposts. They struck without warning and disappeared before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The attacks followed patterns learned from Earth's ancient submarine warfare. Hit fast, hit hard, and vanish into the darkness. The Zelkin military had no experience defending against such tactics. "Supply convoy Delta 7 has been destroyed," Sandra reported. "No survivors. The attacking ships escaped without taking damage." "Zelkin patrol base on Kextar has been neutralized," came another report. "Garrison eliminated. Facilities destroyed. Enemy communication relay at nav point 12 is offline. Entire sector is now cut off from central command. The Zelkin Empire found itself under attack everywhere at once. Ships that had been traveling safely for centuries were suddenly being hunted by invisible predators. Bases that had never been threatened were exploding in nuclear fire. But the real surprise came when Commander Chris Johnson launched his cyber warfare campaign. Computer viruses designed by human programmers began infiltrating Zelkin networks, spreading from ship to ship like a plague. Zelkin fleet communications are degrading, Chris reported. Our viruses are corrupting their command protocols. Individual ships are losing contact with their commanders. The Zelkin response was predictable. Emperor Vexcon ordered his grand fleet to advance immediately, before more damage could be done to their infrastructure. 5,000 ships began moving toward human space in the largest military formation ever assembled. Admiral Clark watched the enemy advance on his tactical displays. The Zelkin fleet stretched across light years of space, a river of death flowing, toward Earth and her colonies. Any conventional military force would have been terrified by such a sight. "All units, this is Fleet Command," Ryan announced. "The enemy is coming to fight us on our terms. They think superior numbers will guarantee victory. They're about to learn why we studied their tactics for 50 years. The human response began with Captain Sandra Cole's stealth ships attacking the Zelkin flanks. Ships that should have been impossible to detect struck from asteroid fields and gas clouds, launching nuclear missiles that surprised enemy vessels. Enemy escort squadron destroyed, Sandra reported. Zelkin formation is developing gaps in their defensive screen. But the main assault came from humanity's orbital weapons platforms. Thousands of kinetic bombardment systems opened fire simultaneously, creating a storm of tungsten rods that tore through the advancing fleet. Each platform fired continuously, sending metal projectiles at tremendous velocity toward Zelkin ships. The aliens had no defense against weapons that moved faster than their sensors could track. "Multiple hits on enemy dreadnoughts," reported the platform commander. "Zelkin formation is taking heavy casualties." The Zelkins tried to respond with concentrated energy weapon fire, but human ships refused to fight in formation. Instead, they swarmed around the enemy fleet like angry wasps, attacking from all directions at once. Colonel Danny Wright led boarding actions against dozens of Zelkin vessels. His Rangers used assault pods to punch through enemy hulls and fight their way to vital systems. The aliens had no training for repelling boarders. "Zelkin heavy cruiser captured," Danny reported. "Engineering section secured. Ship is ours." The battle raged for 18 hours. Zelkin ships that had seemed unstoppable were being destroyed faster than they could return fire. Their formation collapsed as communication systems failed and commanders lost contact with their units. Emperor Vexcan himself led the final assault from his personal dreadnought. The massive ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. But size and firepower meant nothing against tactics. The enemy couldn't understand. Human assault teams swarmed the Imperial flagship from 6 directions. Nuclear missiles and kinetic rounds pounded its hull, while boarding pods delivered Rangers directly to its bridge. The ship that was supposed to be invincible was overwhelmed by coordinated attacks it had no way to counter. "Imperial flagship is dead in space," reported Colonel Wright. "Emperor Vexcan has been captured. The Zelkin Grand Fleet, the most powerful military force in galactic history, had been annihilated. Of 5,000 ships that had advanced toward human space, fewer than 200 escaped. The rest were destroyed, captured, or drifting helplessly through space. On his captured flagship, Emperor Vexcan sat in chains while human marines guarded him. His forearms were bound, and his armor was cracked and burned. The being who had ruled the strongest empire in the galaxy was now a prisoner of the species he had called primitive. "How?" he asked when Admiral Clark came to see him. "How did you defeat us so completely?" Ryan looked at the alien emperor with something. 6 months after the destruction of the Zelkin Grand Fleet, the galaxy looked very different. The massive space station with a galactic Federation net had been expanded to include new meeting halls and military command centers. Ships from Dozens of species moved through the traffic lanes, but now they traveled under the protection of human patrol fleets. Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime Station, remembering his first visit here years ago. Then he had been just another junior officer from a species most aliens considered weak. Now he wore the insignia of Supreme Commander of Eyed Defense Forces, and other species stepped aside when he passed. The Federation Council Chamber had been rebuilt after the Zelkin crisis. The old circular design, where all species sat as equals, had been replaced with a more practical arrangement. The humans now occupied the central command position, with other allied species arranged around them based on their military contributions. Leader Vextar, the tall insectoid being who had once doubted humanity's strength, now served as Jake's liaison with the civilian government. The proud alien had learned humility the hard way when human tactics saved his homeworld from Zelkin. Revenge attacks. Admiral Morrison, Vextar said as Jake entered the council chamber, "We have received 3 more requests for human military protection today." From which species? The Coranian Republic, the Theta Collective, and the Free Worlds of Proxima. They're all former Zelkin territories that declared independence after the Empire collapsed. Jake nodded. The destruction of the Zelkin military had created a power vacuum across dozens of star systems. Worlds that had been oppressed for centuries were suddenly free, but they needed protection from the chaos that followed. President Maria Santos appeared on the main communication screen from Earth. She had been working non-stop to manage humanity's new role in galactic politics. The woman who had authorized war against the galaxy's strongest empire now found herself leading an interstellar alliance. "Jake, what's the situation with the former Zelkin territories?" she asked. "Stable for now, Madam President. Our patrol fleets are maintaining order, and the new governments are cooperating with Federation oversight. Any word from Emperor Vexcan?" "He's still in our custody on Titan Base. Dr. Martinez thinks he's ready to cooperate." The capture of the Zelkin Emperor had been crucial to ending the war quickly. Without central leadership, the remaining Zelkin forces had surrendered rather than continue a hopeless fight. But dealing with the aftermath of galactic regime change was proving more complex than winning battles. Dr. Elena Martinez entered the council chamber with her latest psychological assessment. Elena had spent months studying Zelkin culture and leadership, trying to understand how to rebuild their society without the aggressive militarism that had defined them for millennia. "Admiral, I believe Emperor Vexcan is ready to address the council," she said. "He understands that cooperation is his species' only path to survival. What does he want? Forgiveness. A chance for his people to join the new galactic order as productive members rather than conquered enemies." Jake considered this. The humans could have simply destroyed the Zelkin Empire completely, but that would have created more problems than it solved. Better to reform the former enemy into an ally, if possible. Bring him in. Emperor Vexcan entered the chamber in simple clothes rather than his former imperial armor. The proud ruler who had commanded 5,000 ships now looked tired and older. His forearms were unbound, a sign of trust that Jake hoped would not be misplaced. "Admiral Morrison," Vexcan said formally, "I wish to speak for my people. Go ahead. We were wrong. Wrong about human strength, wrong about warfare, wrong about our place in the galaxy. We let pride and arrogance blind us to reality. And now? Now, we ask for a chance to prove that Zelkins can change, that we can contribute to galactic civilization instead of conquering it." Jake looked around the council chamber at representatives from dozens of species. Many of them had suffered under Zelkin rule for generations. They deserved a voice in determining the former empire's fate. "The council will consider your request," Jake said finally. "But understand this. Any future Zelkin government will operate under Federation oversight. Your military will be limited to defensive forces only, and you will provide reparations to the worlds you conquered. We accept these terms. Captain Sandra Cole's voice came through the communication system from deep space. Sandra now commanded humanity's intelligence network, keeping watch for threats throughout the galaxy. "Admiral, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim," she reported. "New species emerging from beyond Federation space. They call themselves the Ravager clans, and they're not responding to diplomatic contact." Jake activated the tactical display. Red markers showed unknown ships moving through systems on the edge of explored space. The formation patterns looked aggressive, and the ship designs suggested a military culture. "What do we know about them?" Jake asked. "Preliminary analysis suggests they're more advanced than the Zelkins were. Better shields, more powerful weapons. Larger fleets. They seem to be testing our border defenses." Dr. Kevin Phillips joined the discussion from his intelligence station. Kevin had been monitoring communications across the galaxy, looking for signs of new threats or opportunities. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their transmissions," Kevin said. "These Ravager clans seem to have heard about our victory over the Zelkins. They're coming to test whether humans are really as dangerous as the reports suggest. Let me guess. They think the reports are exaggerated." "Exactly. They believe no primitive species could have defeated the Zelkin Empire through military skill alone. They think we got lucky or used some kind of super weapon." Jake almost smiled. Here was another advanced alien civilization making the same mistake the Zelkins had made. They were judging human capabilities by their own standards, assuming that energy weapons and shields were the only measures of military strength. "Sandra, how many ships are we looking at?" "At least 2,000 that we can detect. But these Ravagers use different technology than anything we've seen before. There could be more ships we can't scan properly." Fleet Admiral Ryan Clark appeared on the communication screen from Earth. The old warrior had been promoted to Strategic Defense Coordinator after his success against the Zelkins, and he was already planning humanity's response to this new threat. "Jake, I've been reviewing the intelligence reports," Ryan said. "These Ravager clans fight differently than the Zelkins did. They use swarm tactics with smaller, faster ships. Traditional energy weapons supported by some kind of biological technology." "Biological?" "Their ships seem to be part machine, part living organism. Self-repairing hulls, adaptive weapon systems, maybe even organic crew members. We're dealing with something completely new." Colonel Danny Wright's voice joined the conversation from his training facility on Mars. Danny had been preparing human forces for whatever came next, knowing that victory over the Zelkins was just the beginning of humanity's challenges. "Admiral, my Rangers are ready for deployment," Danny said. "But we'll need new tactics for these Ravager ships. Standard boarding actions might not work against living vessels." "Understood. Begin developing new assault protocols." Chief Engineer Carol Baker had been listening to the discussion while reviewing technical data on the new enemy. Carol's innovations had been crucial to defeating the Zelkins, and humanity would need her genius again. "Admiral, I've been studying the sensor readings from our border encounters," Carol said. "These biological ships might be vulnerable to different types of weapons than we used against the Zelkins." "Explain." "If their hulls are partially organic, they might be susceptible to biological warfare. Viruses, toxins, chemical weapons that target living tissue." Jake felt a chill. Chemical and biological warfare were among humanity's oldest and most terrible weapons. They had been banned on Earth for good reasons, but against an alien enemy that was part living organism, such weapons might be necessary. "Research the possibility, but don't deploy anything without my direct authorization." President Santos spoke from Earth. "Admiral, the Cabinet has authorized you to take whatever action is necessary to protect Federation space." These Ravager clans are about to learn the same lesson we taught the Zelkins. Jake looked around the council chamber one more time. Representatives from dozens of species watched him quietly, waiting for his decision. 6 months ago, these same aliens had considered humans too weak for membership in their federation. Now they looked to humanity for protection against threats they couldn't handle themselves. All units, this is Supreme Commander Morrison, Jake announced. Unknown hostile forces are approaching Federation space. They call themselves the Ravager clans, and they believe humanity's victories were based on luck rather than skill. He paused, thinking about everything that had brought them to this moment. The dismissal by the Federation, the Zelkin ultimatum, the battles that had proven human warfare could defeat any enemy. Prepare the fleets for deployment. Begin operation. Stormfront. These Ravagers want to test whether the reports about human military capabilities are accurate. Jake looked out the window at the ships moving through space around Nexus Prime Station. Human vessels working alongside alien allies. Protecting worlds.